What's up, my friends? We are going to talk about some of the methods that we use in our Discord to get wins like this. This is about a 10x that we got today, or wins like this. Here's another 18x that happened today. And this is in our Discord. The link is in the description below. This is one of the tools that you'll need. The only way that you'll be able to do the things that I'm going to show you in the video today is having a way to filter out plays that smart money and smart socials are currently looking at. You want the ones that are ready to move, right? And we have a bunch of 24/7 automated signal channels here that will show you. They each do something different, but they'll each show you tokens that could be ready to move. Either they have smart socials involved or they have smart money wallets involved. And some of them have both, which is what we call a high conviction play. So that's the goal of what I've set up on our Discord, is to give you tokens that are ready to move. That way you don't have to go looking for them yourself. And I will show you how to set up these. I mean, this is one, this green arrow, or this green line right here is where we entered this one. And we ended up with like a 9 or a 10x if you had held the whole thing. I mean, obviously, not everybody's going to hold the whole thing, but I'm going to show you different strategy you can use for if you just want to hold for like a 30% gain or a 2x gain. Whatever it may be, we're going to go over some of those things. So check the timestamp below. I will timestamp this to where you can find the certain areas of what you may be looking for. First, I'm going to go over the tools that you'll need to do this, and then we'll go over how to enter these plays using something we call a box method or the Fibs. Either one works. And then finally, we'll talk about how to exit, what your exit strategy is, and it will differ depending on your goals or how busy of a person you are. And one thing to note is, first of all, it's not financial advice. None of this is. It's just what I do. It's what I teach. The things that I do, I kind of journal my trading experience. And I want to show you that that anybody can do this, but it's based very much on your time, how much time you have available. So if you're a very busy person, then maybe this isn't really for you. Although we do have long-term plays in our Discord that are more for busy people that we've done a lot of research on. But things like Degen plays, it's more for people that have time to put a little research time in on the front end. And we do have a tool, by the way, on our Discord here in the token scam checks, where you can check bundles. You can check to see if it's a scam, check to see who the top holders are, things like that. So there's a lot of different checks that can be done in here, and you can see people use it throughout the day in our Discord. You can even check things like the previous username for a Twitter or an X account. So it really helps to weed out these that might end up being a scam, and you don't have to waste your time with those. So let's talk about some of those tools first. And what we're trying to achieve, of course, here is something like this. We don't want to be getting into tokens like this. And like I said, I am going to show you how to determine if that's the case with some of these. So let's see. Okay. So number one of the tools you'll need is Dex Screener, or you can use something like gmgn.ai, which is what this one is, or you could use BullX, or there's a lot of different places that you could look at a chart. I mean, you will need to be able to look at a chart and be able to draw on it. So that is probably the most important tool aside from our Discord. You're going to need the Discord to know what plays to play, and you don't have to have the Discord, but it will help you tremendously to where you don't have to go looking for the plays yourself. So that's like 50% of the work right there. So we do that work for you. And so let's see. So yeah, Dex Screener, gmgn.ai, BullX, and then also you're going to need, as far as tools go, let me show you. Let's see, TradeWiz is one bot you could do. Trying to see if they have a website. I don't remember if they do or not. I think they got a Git book. Yeah, so the TradeWiz bot, Trojan bot. These are some of the apps that you'll need to do your auto sells and your auto buys. You want to have this set up for a Solana. Most of these that we do, by the way, are Solana Degen plays. But you'll want to have these set up as a Telegram bot so that you can just paste the contract address in to where you can buy how much ever you want to buy, And then once you have the sell, the auto sell set up, it'll just automatically sell for you. And you don't have to sit around watching to see if the play actually goes up to your sell target. So let's see. By the way, TradeWiz is the one that I use, and you can see down below in the description, I think it's the last link, is a link to my TradeWiz referral. So if you just want to click through quickly, that's how you get to it. Or you can just search TradeWiz. That's another way to find it. All right, so let's go through one of these. Let's see here. And I'm trying to remember, is that all the tools that you need? Deck screener. I think that's pretty much all you need, yeah. So now we're going to go through the tools as far as what you need in your tool set, as far as looking at indicators, or we'll look at two different, we'll look at Fibs, we'll look at a box method, and I'm going to show you both of those here, and it's going to help you to determine which way you want to use it. One's a little bit quicker than the other one, but it's also going to help you to, get better. And I always tell people, you want to back test multiple plays. You don't want to just watch this video and then that's it. You want to take what I'm showing here, what I'm going to show you here in a minute, and then you want to go back and look at multiple charts and see how it played out, and just get a feel for what it looks like for a good play versus what it looks like for a bad play. And that's what I was talking about here at the very beginning of the video, is this one ended up being very good, this one ended up being bad. Why is that? So let me just show you here on this chart, and I'm going to leave this here because this is where the alert first showed up. So what you want to do, and it doesn't matter if you're on TradingView, you're not going to see Solana, in these new Solana plays on TradingView, so don't go there. It doesn't matter if you're on GMGN or Deck Screener or BullX. What you want to do is just look here on the tools on the left side right here, and you'll see one that says Fib Retracement. So click on that, find the very bottom or close to it, right about 0, and then drag all the way up to the top wick right here, or you can come down to the second wick. It really doesn't matter. It's fairly close either way. And then just drag this out. So if I would have seen this right here, and I'm going to go over a MACD here in a minute as well, but we'll start off with finding support levels first. So let's say that you don't have time to jump into this first impulse, and you're just only interested in waiting until it finds its next support. Well, in that case, maybe you're busy that day or whatever. You'll just go ahead and drag from the bottom to the first or the second wick here, and then this line, the 786 line, is going to act as your support resistance the rest of the way. And you can drag this out into the future. I'm using the second wick right there, but you could drag this out into the future and see how this was support at one point right here, and it bounced up, kind of like a dead cat bounce. Then it came back down and it acted as a resistance. Now it's trying to get back above. If it was to get back below again, then it's probably coming down even further. So yes, you can take a position here in some cases. Right now it doesn't look that good to me, but you could take a position here. But if it fell back below it, then you could just get out and take a small loss. So you always want to be buying near support levels. Don't buy as it goes into resistance. Wait for it to get over and create support. And alternatively, you would want to be buying at a support level, but if it got back below, you'd get out. And it just makes it to where you're in a position where you're not going to lose much money, if it was to come down. Now, one thing you can look at is your MACD, and I'm on the minute chart right here. As price, as it gets more historical price, you can go to higher time frames and get more information. But remember that higher time frames, they do lag more. And I'll show you that here in a second. Let's see how high we can go here. Okay, so the MACD still hasn't shown up on the 15-minute, so we have to be at the 5-minute. All right, so on the 5-minute, look how it's rejecting the, it's under what's currently resistance because it's under the 786 line. So to me, I would suspect that it's probably going to keep bleeding down here somewhere, maybe to like 1 to 2 million market cap support. The reason why this is more of a possibility, even though it just barely popped up above it again, is because the two MACD lines here are below the midline. And what I'm calling the midline is the line between these red histogram candles and these green ones. And what this coincides with is RSI. So if you were to bring up, you don't really need RSI, I just want to show you this. If you bring up RSI, you'll see that it's rejecting the 50 line as well. So if this was to get back above the 50 line or the midline here, then you would see, you'd see the RSI getting above the 50 line as well. See how this one right here was above, but these down here, once it got below, these two lines were below it. So just remember in your mind in the future, anytime MACD lines cross below this midline right here, that means that it's under the 50 RSI line and it's bearish. And if they get back above this midline, then that means it's bullish, because anything over the 50 RSI is bullish, anything below the 50 RSI is bearish. So just remember that. Yeah, so in this case, because it's a fairly new token, you can kind of get your trend idea here on a higher time frame. It seems like it's curling up, sure. There has been a little bit of a push up, but it's currently not above the midline, so it's not truly bullish yet, right? However, here on the 1 minute, it did cross above this midline right here. And that's when it pushed above the resistance. See how this was resistance before many times? And then it finally pushed above. So now you got these two lines above the midline, and now they're coming back down. So if you had bought, as these crossed above the midline on the 1 minute, which is, it's actually accurate to do that. Usually you can get a pretty good move out of that. And in this case, you would have gotten, even if you were a little bit late, you could have made, well, you wouldn't have made much actually, because this thing had a really strong candle down. But 10 to 20% possibly you could have made on that. Because what you want to do is usually you want to get out when this crosses down right here. If things are looking bearish. Now there are cases where, and this is going to be a little bit confusing, there are cases where, let me go back to this, when it was first having its first impulse. There's times where price action will just go sideways as long as both lines are above the midline. And again, the midline is the line on the histogram here between the red and the green candles. Just imagine there's an imaginary line between those two, horizontal line. So the two lines were above it. They barely touched it using as support, and then it just took off. So when a token is brand new, it's actually accurate to stay in it as long as both lines are above the midline here. Because it can just do like a sideways move and then break out again. But see how you could have either taken profits here or here on the cross down, or you could have just waited till right here on this cross down, because it completely got into the midline there. So it really depends on how you decide to, read this. I will tell you this, on a higher time frame, like a 5 minute, if you were to get a cross down like these two, either one of these, you'd want to get out, even though it wasn't below the midline. 1 minute's the only one that you can really wait for it to get below the midline on right here. And I hopefully that's not confusing. I know I went over a lot of things. This is a cross down. This is a cross down. This blue line crossing below the orange one. And all that is the blue line is the fast line, and the orange one is the slow line. So you're just looking for a cross down to sell or a cross up to buy on a higher time frame. But on a lower time frame, like 1 minute, you can actually wait for it to cross below the midline here. So you would have lost a little bit of profit there. So say you bought anywhere in here after the alert and you actually waited for this cross down. Anywhere in here, you would have made like a 3 or 4x. And alternatively, if you would have sold on this cross down, probably about the same, about a 3x. Or with this one right here, you would have made somewhere around a 5 to 6x, something like that. So that's being very conservative. And I'm going to show you here in a little bit about, instructions or ideas on how to strategize to take profits. There's really a lot of different ways you can do it. And we can see here that this one is actually turning down some more. So remember, the trend matters on higher time frames. So the trend was down, and yeah, it crossed up right there. You could have bought there. But the problem is these two lines are currently under the midline, so that tells us it's bearish. And it's below the support line, the 786 support line. So, it's looking weak currently. It could just go sideways for a bit. But if you want to play it extremely safe, then you want to wait for the I mean, the 1 minute technically is still bullish, but these lines seem to be crossing down now. So they may end up doing something like this back here like it did before. But always go up to a higher time frame and just get a bigger, a broader picture of what's going on first, because the candle bodies will look different, the wicks will look different. Wicks to the upside typically mean that there's people selling there. Yeah, so anyway, maybe it's just sideways action, but I suspect this thing's coming down more. So let's try a box method, and I'm going to show you a box. So that was fibs we just talked about. Now let's talk about a box method. And what you do with a box method is you're grabbing this tool right here. It's called date and price range. And then you're dragging from the bottom candlestick. And you're just going to use candle bodies here. So I'm only going up. Let me zoom in here. I'm only going up to this candle body right here. I'm not using these wicks like I did with fibs. And with fibs, you can use candle bodies too if you want, but what you're looking for is some kind of confluence. Notice how when I pulled this box, these wicks are hitting this midline here perfectly, and so are some of these candle bodies. So always look for confluence. Here's resistance. These were coming up, that was resistance. These were coming down, that was support. So your confluence is here's support and resistance meeting at the same line, and that's the kind of thing you want to look for. All right, so we got our first box. Now we're going to take another box, same tool, and we're going to go from the bottom, going from the bottom to that midline of that box. So I'm just dragging from the bottom, dragging this second box up to the midline of this first bigger box. And I'm going to grab one more. And now I'm doing something a little bit different. I'm starting from the midline here of this second box, the second smaller one, and I'm going to drag up to the top of this box or the midline, either way, of that first box. So I'm going to start here, and I'm just dragging to the top or the midline. It's all going to equal together right here at the very top. And now what you want to do, you can either do it manually by grabbing, where's that here? Here it is, horizontal line. And then you just click right here in the middle of this smaller box, and then grab another one, and then click in the middle of this second bigger box, or the one that we did after the largest one. And there you go. And I guess alternatively, you could just draw it based on the bottom of this smaller box. So, the line would be the bottom of the smaller box and the middle of that smaller box. Either way, it all works out the same. And then once you have that, you just delete all this. You keep those lines though. So now you got your lines, and we can see that this token here has just kind of bled out to nothing, and it's showing how weak it is. And I just want to verify something here. Yeah, that was resistance there, that was support, that looks good. Yeah, so what you would say here is that this, I'm just going to put a rectangle here that says, this is your buy zone. Okay. Oh, I didn't end up inside of it for some reason. There. All right, so that's what you're looking for. This is your buy zone. And yeah, I mean, as price was coming down, you could have bought here and made a little bit of a gain, off of this bounce, because you would have already had, you're drawing these boxes once it looks like price is coming down. And I don't know where you would have determined that. Maybe you would have seen something like that right there because it got a lower high. Or sorry, a lower low. Because this would have been a higher low, that would have been a lower low. So somewhere in here you would have known that it was coming down further, and you could have went ahead and drawn your boxes. So yeah, I mean, you could have, that would have been a tough play. You could have technically made roughly 30% there. But this thing fell really quickly after it got back below that top line there. So at one point this was support, and this thing hasn't gotten back above that support. So you could have saved yourself a lot of time with this one, where why would you buy it, right? Until it got back above this line. And typically this does happen. If a token gets above 1 million and, pushes up to 2, 3, 4 million, even more, typically the support for it's going to be around, well, I guess it depends on how high it gets. It could have support around, 200, 300K, 500K, but a lot of them tend to find support around 1 million if they're stronger tokens, if they're going to have another move up. So for us to have wanted to buy this one, our buy zone is right there, and clearly it never made it into it. So let's look at, here, let me find you one that, I need to find you one that actually went back up. We can use Claude here, which is one that has touched support multiple times, and eventually it's going to pump out, it's going to have a really big pump out of this. This is one of the reasons I have some money in this one currently, because I do believe it'll make a bigger move. So let's see, if we're using the box method, well, let's start out with the fibs. So we're going to grab the fib tool, and we're going to drag, I think I'll just use this first wick right here, but we want to verify. Yeah, so look how that's creating a lot of support there. Here was some support on this 618 line. Yeah, so this looks pretty good. There's some confluence there with support resistance. So currently our most important line, of course, is the 786, which it's sitting right on. It broke out a little bit, and now it's sitting right on top of it, and we need to see if it's going to hold that line. So that's what the fib would look like. And you can even use some of these lines as it goes back up as resistance. Like this one at whatever that is, 2.6 million, might be a decent amount of resistance as it comes back up. Or even this one here at 3.4. So, fibs you can use that way. But if we were to use the box method here, let me see, I'm on the 4-hour. Let's say that you were on the 5-minute and this is what you saw. I don't know why I did that. Oh, I know why I did it, okay. That was before it had its pump, there we go. All right, so what I'm doing here, just imagine this one just alerted not too long ago, and we're just wanting to do our box method here. So we're gonna grab that tool. I'm gonna go as close to 0 as we can and drag up to the top. Here, I'll show you here in a second. I'll zoom in. See how that's the candle body top? It's the highest top for candle bodies before it started coming down. And so now what we'll do is we're gonna grab this, go to the midline. I'm gonna do this a little bit quicker now. Since I already showed you, you can always go back and see how I did it more slowly if you need to. All right, so I'm gonna hold down Alt and H, and this is gonna draw my horizontal lines. And so now this is our support resistance or our buy area. And as you can see, it did come down into here, but then it came down and rejected a few times, but then it got right back in. So if we're calling this our buy area, if we're just gonna draw a little rectangle here and say this is our buy area, you're gonna see that, yeah, it rejected multiple times, but eventually it got back in. And so once this came above and retested this and then started moving up, it's looking real good, right? So if we look at the MACD at the time, you could have waited on a 5-minute chart to cross above right there, and it would have been, easily a good entry. And you didn't risk all of this. What if this had just kept going down, right? What if this just kept going down like this and bleeding out like that other one we talked about? So you lowered your risk, which is really important. And also you got a really good entry and you felt confident about it. And you told yourself, well, it hasn't been back into this buy area for a while. Plus I've got my MACD that is above the midline. It's clearly curled up here, but it's above the midline as well. And I can just hold this thing until it crosses down right here. I mean, this is hindsight, sure. You did have a cross down right there that could have faked you out. But even if you had sold this and then got right back in on a cross up, not too many minutes later, how many was that? It would have been a couple hours later. But if you had been watching it and you had gotten out and then gotten right back in, you still would have made a really nice move. Let me just see where this crossed up. So it was somewhere in here. We'll just be conservative here. Cross down was there roughly. Yeah, so that's about a 2x with not much work. You know, maybe you just had this chart open, you already had your lines, and we can still drag our buy area all the way down here. And every time this hits the buy area, if we want to accumulate, you know, we can accumulate, or we can, you know, if it dips below the bottom line again, we can get out. I mean, obviously we would have been taking profits up here though, instead of, you know, there's no way or no reason you should have held that whole thing. You know, the goal here, and we're going to talk about this here in a minute, is to take profits as things go up, because the market makers are going to move things up, get people to jump in late because they need exit liquidity. And then down here, they're going to get people to sell their position at the bottom. You know, it's all manipulation. When price goes up, it's eventually bearish. When price goes down, it's eventually bullish. That's just the way it works, as long as it's a real project, or at least, I mean, a lot of them aren't real projects, but at least if it's a project that's going to stay around a while, that smart money is interested in. So here's your buy area all the way across here. Any time this comes into the buy area, you could have made money, could have made money, could have made money. And then here it showed a lot of weakness, but now we're back into the box. So, you know, you could be buying here. And these are great. I mean, sure, this is a longer term token, it's 93 days, but these are great because if you're starting to see a pattern like this, where it just comes up, comes down, up, down, you know, you can make money each time if you just stay patient and accumulate near the buy area. You know, at no point here, except maybe this one, would you have lost money. You know, you'd be in the profit. You'd be in profit everywhere else. And it's fine to wait. You know, you can wait until it touches that bottom line if you want. Or again, if it gets down here, you know, if it gets way down here and then comes up and holds support, then this is where you'd get in. And always keep an eye on your MACD for things like this as well. I wouldn't go higher than 5 minute for checking to see if MACD is crossing above or below the midline. You know, like we were talking about before. Where was it? Back here somewhere. Trying to remember where we were looking exactly. Was it this one? It might have been this one. Oh, that's why I'm on the hourly. Okay. Yeah, so if we go back to the 5 minute, back here where we were talking about it, this first area, yeah, it crossed above. That was your buy signal. And it was under this line still. So if you wanted to wait, that would have been fine. Let it come above. And I'm talking about let it get above. Let me delete this. So what I was talking about, let it get above the bottom purple line, which is your support. We could just call this support. And you'll see me put these sometime. Oops, I didn't put that on the right side. You'll see me put these on here sometimes where it'll say support or bullish above. And that's the way you could consider these. Is that thing right on the right side? Okay, there we go. Yeah, so this line's your support, that's your bullish above. So you feel very confident if it gets above this line, but you also want to be accumulating usually if it gets, you know, near the support line. However, if price is just dumping, you don't want to mess with it. You know, if you see it reject here multiple times, but then it finally gets above, usually that's a sign that it's going to be ready again. And that's kind of what we saw back here. So here's another one. It got below, got back above. Let me see if I can find another one. Barely got below, below here and then got back above. It held it here, touched it perfectly there again, got barely below, touched it perfectly. And currently what we're looking at is it got below, showing some weakness. So we really need to see it hold this line, right? If it gets back below it, then that probably tells us it could be, you know, in for a longer downtrend. And I'm just looking here on a higher time frame to see what it shows us. Always jump around to different time frames. It'll help you. Yeah, I mean, currently it is showing some weakness here, so it could dip below again one more time. So we'll see. I mean, it's down a lot from where it went. a lot of people would be fearful right now, especially if it got back below support here. So usually it's correct to be buying at that point, but you could draw like a trend line or something, and I don't know, the trend line's not gonna be perfect, but you could try to, find some kind of trend line, and then once it breaks that trend line, then get back into it as long as it's above support. So hopefully that makes sense. That will keep you out of bad plays, but it'll also get you into good plays. So here I'm looking at an hourly chart. Remember we talked about the 1 minute as being, when a token first shows up, that's all you can really look at. But always keep an eye, keep watching your MACD. It's going to help you. It needs to be above that midline on the lower time frames, the 1 or 5 minute. And then, the higher time frames are just going to kind of show you the trend. And sometimes even you can find, trying to see if there's one here. There's kind of where's it at? I just saw it. We've talked about them before, but see how the red histogram here, it's creating higher lows, and that usually leads to higher price discovery or a price pushing up. So that's exactly what happened here. And as soon as you got that, that move above there, it moved pretty good. Yeah. I mean, it's a pretty small move, but still about a 2x or so. Yeah. Okay. So let's go over that. That's how to buy it, right? So let's go over how to sell it. And there's two ideas here. I'm going to type them out. So you've got one person that doesn't have much time. Let's see. We'll just put busy person. And then we'll put, time. What would it be? Time to trade. I don't know. I'm trying to think of what to put here. We'll just put Degen trader. So this person has lots of time to watch the charts. So a busy person is probably going to appreciate a token like this that they can look at a long-term view and find a support area where they can just check it once a day. Is it back to support? Can I buy it now? I'm going to lower my risk if I buy it at support, right? And then I'll just wait until it pumps, and then I'll take my profit. And maybe this busy person here, maybe they're looking for something like at least a 5x or something like that, which I believe is possible on this one. Yeah, it's probably more like a 3 or a 4x. We'll just say a minimum 3x. And then this person here that's a Degen trader, maybe they want to just look for, like a 30% to, 2x move, something like that. And so this person, since they watch charts a lot, they're going to get bigger wins, by the way. The Degen trader is going to get a lot of different wins. Some will be small, some will be big. Let me make this better here. All right, so these are our two people. So this person has a family, or they got a busy work life, or maybe they have a big, busy social life. They don't want to spend all their time trading. This person wants to do more longer term trades that might last, multiple days or something. Sometimes they'll get a big win, in the same day, but that's why they want to have their auto sell Telegram bot already set up. And I'm going to show you how to do that in a second. Just in general, all these Telegram bots are a little bit different, but I'm going to show you how to do it in general. Okay, let's see. So a Degen trader, they have a lot of time to watch the charts. They can go in here to our Discord. Let me show you. They can go in here to our Discord, do all the checks, the scam checks. They can, get with other traders here in the Degen chat. They're talking about how much profit they're making. They're posting different plays that they can get into. Let's see here. Or you can look into, maybe they've got time to look into a new play that just popped up. So they've got a lot more time to look at multiple plays per day and increase their portfolio that way with just getting smaller wins. Now, it's still possible that this person, and we see it all the time in our Discord, but it's still possible that they could get like a 10x, 50x, even 100x. Of course, you have to hold for a long time for that. You have to be patient. But, even the busy person can get that as well. I'm just trying to be, conservative. I don't want to, blow people's minds with what I'm talking about here. I'm trying to remain level-headed about all this. So just understand that these more rare plays like this, they can still happen for you, but they'll happen within the process of you doing all the things necessary every day, like we talked about previously in this video, to do use the tools that we're talking about and finding support and that sort of thing. So let's look here. What do I want to show you? So I guess we could talk about the Degen trader first. So if we go back to this one here, which it did keep rejecting like we thought it would, the alert showed up right here. And even the long-term trader, maybe they had time that day to jump into this play, but maybe they jumped in way back here somewhere, and that's fine. I mean, it still gave them like an hour to get in after the alert. It's not always going to happen this way. Sometimes they pump immediately, but I'm going to show you the difference here. So let's say the Degen trader, they jumped in like a few minutes after this alert, and probably weren't happy that it didn't take off for them right away, but eventually it did. Let me go over to the 1 minute. I need to bring up the MACD here. Okay. So the Degen trader was like, okay, well, why is this thing? Okay, there we go. Degen trader was like, okay, well, as long as these two lines on the 1 minute are above the midline, then I'm fine with this one. It's just going sideways. As long as it doesn't dump hard on me, then I'm just going to stay in. And that's pretty much what happened. It just kind of went sideways and then finally broke out. These little triangle patterns like this, it's kind of a triangle anyway. Yeah. And these triangle patterns are amazing. You can get a really nice pump out of these. I know that's not perfect lines, but it's close enough. Yeah, so the Degen trader might have stayed in this one and, maybe got their 2x or something, whatever they were looking for. 2 or 3x here. Maybe they saw this starting to come back down and they got scared out. I mean, they would have made like a 3 to 5x there, even on that move. So this ended up being a good play for the long term or the Degen trader because it gave anybody time to get into this one. There was about an hour period after the alert that you could have gotten in. And I think people, actually, we even called this one. Rod here. Let's see where it's at. Yeah, here it is right here. Sorkin coin. This is at 9:34. Let me see. Yeah, so he actually called the play. See, this is exactly what I mean. He actually called the play right here. So it gave him plenty of time to actually make the call. He saw it and he was like, okay, this one looks good. There's a lot of smart money in it. We follow the smart money. There were 15 in currently. Some people jumped in and made some money off this. Looks like he posted that it was running based on a recent interview, going sideways, but could break out once again. Yeah, so sometimes we do a really good job of finding these, but you can find them at any time if you're in our Discord. Every single one of these Degen alert channels run 24/7. And you could have found this one even before Rod found it here. So here was the initial alert. Here's where Rod posted it, which was a perfect timing. And from here, it would have really just depended on where you sold it. So maybe you started getting scared here because you saw it coming back down. Or maybe you got scared here. Any of this is like a 3, 4, 5x. If you had, held it strongly, then you would have made like a 7 to 8x. But everybody's going to get scared out at some point, right? I mean, all of this market maker manipulation here is designed to shake people out. But that's why we use the MACD, right? So if we open up the MACD here was the first entry, here's the second entry. These two lines held the midline pretty well. It did dip down below it temporarily, but then it crossed right back up. So you could have taken profit there on the cross down, profit here. You could have taken profit here on this cross down of the midline. There was plenty of opportunity there. You could have been watching these green histogram channels or candles, and as soon as they started, coming back down, maybe you took some profit there. So everybody has to find out what their strategy is, right? Kind of what feels most comfortable to them. But technically, you don't have to sell anything as long as these are trending up. And really the trend up, continue to happen all the way up here because you got a higher high, but you wouldn't have known that in real time. You would have just seen that where it crossed down. So I could definitely see, somebody selling here. I could have even seen somebody selling back here. So maybe you got in right here and then you saw this cross down. Maybe you got out. But just remember, on the 1 minute chart, it's okay to continue to hold a token as long as you got a pretty good entry, as long as these two lines are above the midline. Remember, we talked about that at the very beginning. So all that to say, this ended up being a very good play. I understand that in real time it's very difficult, but that's where practice comes in. And you can start to see the patterns, or you can start to just kind of get a feel for it based on what MACD is doing. But remember, 1 minute's where you want to watch, and you're okay to stay in as long as these two lines are above the midline. But again, if you feel safer getting out when there's a cross down, by all means do that, because you can always just jump right back in on a cross up, or get right back out on a cross down. I mean, if you had done that, by the way, maybe you got in right here at this somewhere, and then you got out at, see this cross down right here, which would have happened maybe somewhere in here. So you would have made like a 2 or 3x. And then once this 2 or 3x happened, you would get back in on this cross up, which is, I'm being real conservative here. So you got in right there, and then you got out here, I don't know, somewhere in here. So you would have made either a small loss, like 3%, or you would have made a small, 7% gain or something like that. So it's very difficult to hold it to the top. I definitely get that. That's why you would want to go to higher time frames. Like say, for example, on this second signal right here, 5 minutes should have been working by then. Well, actually it wasn't. So 5 minute MACD didn't actually show up till kind of the top here. And there was a cross down right there. So this would have been, I think it would have been hard to, it would have been really tough to use the 5 minute in this case. But in something like, here, let me go back to Claude. I just want to make sure you understand this. If we went all the way to like a daily chart, MACD shows up there. So always start at your higher time frame first if you're looking at longer term plays. And what you want to look for is you want to see if your two lines are starting to come together a little bit. But do notice that the histogram is starting to trend back up. So money is flowing back into this one. But here's what I mean by it lagging. See how right here on the daily chart, you got a cross down. The price was already all the way down here. So really you have to go down to like a 15-minute chart. And it is going to bounce around a lot and look weird. I'm just going back to this most recent top. And just see where you could have gotten out. So see right here, it's kind of like that other one we just looked at where it had one cross down, then it had a cross up and another cross down. So you could have gotten out at the very top almost, by using the 15-minute. So you were in right here, you were out there or out there. So up to the 15-minute, you could use your MACD for entries and exits. But the only reason you're going to higher time frames like this, like hourly, 4 hour, you're really just trying to check the trend. That's all that matters. You're not really making your entries or exits from these higher time frames. Anything over an hour or more, you're just trying to check the trend. If we go up to the 4 hour, just jump around and see what you see. We can see on the 4 hour that it rejected at the midline, but it's holding. Let's see here. Well, it's not really holding. It could still turn down. But this could be some kind of inverted head and shoulders on the MACD. It's not perfect, but there is maybe something there. So who knows, maybe this thing just comes down and then starts moving back up. But since this lags, it's going to show up on a lower time frame first. And I'm not really seeing anything here just yet, other than, this is a higher low from this one. So we'll just have to see what happens. You can see how this was kind of a head and shoulders that turned out to turn down. So it's really just about practice. I mean, the more time you put into the charts, the more you're going to see. But this box method does work. Fibs do as well. I mean, if we were to jump out and, the higher time frame here and look at the fib, I don't know where I want to pull it to. Hang on. maybe the second one, yeah. So see how the 786 fib kind of lines up with the box method support? It doesn't always work this way, but it's usually pretty close. So if you just want a really quick support line, usually your 786 is going to work for you. If you don't want to mess with the box method, but yeah, it's up to you. Okay, so let's talk about auto sell features. I'll go here on the Trojan. Here, let me open up my Telegram. Okay, so if you were on Trojan here and you were on the start menu, and I don't use this, I don't use this, so I don't care if you see my wallet address or, it doesn't matter to me because I don't use it. Let's see, where do we want to look at? It's been a while since I used this one. It might be limit orders. No, that's not it, sorry. Might be under settings, actually. Okay, so under settings, you go to auto sell, and you can create a profile. This is a profile that I made before. Actually, let me just make a new one. So we'll make a new profile for auto selling. And what you want to do here is you want to add orders, I believe. Yeah, there it is. Okay, so let's say that you are a Degen that has a lot of time to trade, and it'll actually give you instructions here. You have a lot of time to trade, but you just want really quick wins. You just want like a 30%, 2x, and you're just going to keep compounding your wins and grow your portfolio that way. So this is one profile we're going to do, and we'll call it Degen. But we'll just, this is one way to do it, 30%, or take profit, yeah. So take profit at 30%. So I click there and I put 30. And you could put 100 here if you want. So at 30% gain from your entry, you're going to extract all of your winnings. You're going to take all your profits out at 30%. So that's one way to do it. Another way to do it is maybe on 100% gain, which is a 2x, we're going to take 100% out. Or if you're like a longer term trader or something, or let's just stay with the Degen. Let's say you're looking for, actually we can keep, let's just add an order here. Okay, so we're going to do, I don't know, like a 3x. So at 300% gain, we're going to move this one back down to 50. So we're going to take out our some of our initial investment here. We're going to take out 50% at a 2x, and then we're going to take out the rest. So we got an equal amount here that equals 100%. We're going to take 50% out at a 2x, 50% out at a 3x. Or sorry, that's a 4x, isn't it? Yeah. I always get confused. I'd rather just say it's 1x, 2x, 3x. Yeah, because 100% is 2x, 200% is 3x, 300% is 4x, yeah. You can set your slippage different if you want. It just depends on how volatile it is. Remember, the higher you set your slippage, the less tokens you receive when you buy it or get back when you sell it. Slippage can, cause slippage of tokens where you lose some tokens. Let's see, you can put how many days until it expires for whatever token you're purchasing. Looks like you can go up to seconds, minutes, hours, day. Oh, okay, so they changed this. I don't know, do you do 30D? Oh, sorry, this is a new part of it to me. There it goes, okay. So this would expire in 30 days on whatever token you're holding. And this is a snapshot. So if you change this at any point, like say you do this one and then you buy a token, this is what it'll use, these are the settings. But if you change this and then you buy another token, then whatever you changed it to, and that's your new settings. Okay, so we'll just tag this one as Degen. So that's your Degen type. You're trying to get like a 30%, 50%, 2x, 4x, whatever. It really just depends on you. It's got to be your strategy. I can't come up with that for you. But here's an idea for, let's make another one. Here's an idea for a long-term holder. So we're going to add an order, and we're going to do like add a, let's say it's something like a 3x. We're going to take our initials out. What would that be? 30%? We'll just call it 30. So we're going to take 30% of all of the tokens. We're going to sell 30% of the tokens at a 3x. And then we'll do something like, we're going to step it up a little bit at, maybe we want to hold for longer, hoping for bigger gains, or maybe we'll just do this. Maybe we'll do, just step it up a little bit to a 400% of 5x gain. And we'll sell another 30% there, say. And then we can hold for a moon bag, right? We'll do something like, either 10x or, we could do something like 50x even if we get a really good buy at a support level. We'll do like, let's see, we did 200, 400, I don't know, we'll do like 2,900%, whatever that ends up being. We'll take another 30 out there, and then we'll add one more order for like 4,900, we'll say, percent, hoping for like a 50x or something, and we'll take out the remaining 10% there. So you can see here, you're taking that at 3x, you're getting 30% out, which you're already well into profit there. Well, actually, that's probably close to just taking your initials. But if it gets up to like a 5x, then yeah, you're well into profit. And then you're taking at 30x or whatever this ends up being, you're taking 30%. At 50x, you're taking the final 10%. So it all equals out to 100%. So hopefully this makes sense to you. I'm trying to think if there's anything I didn't quite go over. There are some situations that I've been asked in the Discord before about how do you determine, when is a good time to buy, when's a good time to sell. We just went over the sell part, but if we're going over the buying portion of it, let's say this token launched and it pushed up real high, and now it's just falling, falling, falling. You've already got all your, your lines set up here. As soon as this hits the buy area here, you could take this play. But remember, you need to be looking at your MACD. And I would always suggest going at least down to the 5 minute. Let me do this, okay? At least go down to the 5 minute. So this is the portion. Is it this one? Yeah, okay. Or no, that's the wrong one. So here's where it was coming down. You've already got your box. This is your buy zone. It came into your buy zone. You could have taken this, but it's a little bit risky. What if it kept going down? Let me just zoom in here. So really all you have to do here on the 5 minute, you could have seen that, yes, it did come down in the buy zone, but it did curl back down the midline here. So it was bearish temporarily. Now, if it got back above the midline there, you could have entered for sure, because not only is it above the midline and it's curling up, but it also got above the bullish line. So it's very important to buy near these lines. I think would be the most, the best thing that I could tell you. So if it comes down here to support, sure, it's fine to buy there. But if it was to close below it, like if it was just to come up a little bit and then come back down, then maybe just get out for a while. And then once it got back above support and held support for a little bit, then you'd get back in. And that's exactly what happened here. It went above the bullish line and then it held it as support. Yeah, it did get under temporarily while your MACD was low, but it did curl back up. So, yeah, you could have gotten out there, but really, why would you have? Sure, it was below the midline, but, it was curling up temporarily. So as long as it's roughly holding these lines and not, dipping well under them, I think it's fine to hold it. And then you could have, just watched your midline here to see when it crossed down. Now, I know I said before in the video that it's probably best to watch for the lines to cross down on the midline only on the 1 minute chart. But as a token gets more and more history, it's a longer token, I think it's okay to use the 5 minute in this case in that way. So yeah, there's a couple different places here to take profit. And if you had been using MACD correctly, anywhere in here, if you would have bought, it did have a cross down here somewhere. So you would have made about a 30% gain. So, usually only a Degen trader would be watching something like this. A long-term trader would probably be watching for a support line instead, instead of just the first dip into the buy zone. I just want to look at one more thing here. Yeah, see on this first impulse, I'm just looking at the hourly chart. But see on this first impulse, it went way down. It blew through the buy zone. And it actually did offer an area to buy right there, but then it faked out. It went up a couple times and then came right back down. So you could have bought there at this hammer candle and then sold somewhere in here because it got back below and just waited for it. And it did end up getting back above support. So, look how it rejected multiple times here, but then it finally got above it. Especially if you see a candle like that, that means it's going up higher. But these were, a couple of candles that were faking out. They'd go up, then come back down. Those are tougher. All you can do is use MACD in that case. This thing takes forever to scroll back to the very beginning. Oh, there it is, okay. So yeah, even on the 5 minute, when this token was still fairly new, it had a cross up of the midline as it was getting above the support like we talked about before. So hopefully that makes sense. I mean, you probably don't want to be buying, even though it's very tempting to do so. Maybe you see it way down here at like 100K or 200K, and they can come back from that sometimes, definitely. But it's a lot, it's very risky because the token could stay down here for a long time, or it could just, fade into nothing and never come back. So it's better just to use this support line as an area to buy. And then once it gets above the bullish line, it's very bullish. And then anything above that line, you want to start thinking about, if you bought down here, you want to start thinking about where to take your profits or already have your auto sell set up. Okay, well, I know that was a lot to go through. This was a long video. It's almost an hour now, but I am gonna, you'll know after you watch the video. It'll be timestamped, so it'll make it easier on you, to find the areas that you want to find that you're wanting to focus on specifically. If you practice these methods, you're gonna, even if you don't know TA, if you practice these methods and back test tokens and just get used to what it's gonna look like, you're gonna be so far ahead of most other traders, which are not really, it's not a contest, but it's gonna put you ahead of the game and allow you to make more money. And the most important thing is it's going to keep you out of bad trades. That's what we're trying to keep out of, right? To where you feel comfortable in your trade. So try to practice these. If you got any questions, ask them in the comments below. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, share it with your friends, and join the Discord if you want to get these alerts that we have. All right, take care.